white, orange. Just like, I see Naomi's name as green and Campbell as white, and I've told her before. I can already decipher that for you. I can tell you E is brown, C is white, N is green. I can tell you every single thing. But then when the word just strikes my brain, it shows the whole thing as blue.
Good to see you. Thank you for agreeing to talk to me.
Same
Um,
here. Thank you. The questions were amazing. Let me try to make sure my laptop is charged. One second.
okay.
All right.
There will be
Okay,
like
I'm ready for you.
some lead in to this interview.
Okay.
What's important to know about you, you think?
I think what is important to know about me is through my research, I have developed the faith for believing in God, and you know, I have a music background. I'm a perfectionist. I take my time to work. I'm a very conceptual minded person. And I'm fun to be with, but I'm also socially awkward at the same time. And I could be the worst introvert ever. Yeah, and I'm from Ghana. I was born in Africa. But then I have like my parents, my dad lives in the US. My stepdad lives in the US. My I have a mom, a second mom who also is American, and a second dad somewhere else, a third dad, honestly. And then my mom, my biological mom, is from Ghana, and she's into music. She's what I say, one of the famous musicians in Ghana. My dad was also a famous musician in Ghana before he moved back to New York. And my grandfather, who died in 2002, is an Afro traditional pop musician in Africa as well. So I have a music background and an art background. And I studied art in high school. And I also did literature and I did science. I did IT programming, coding, every single thing, forensics, system administration.
You are known as a photographer, or you prefer to be called an artist?
I prefer to be called an artist because my background is I never studied photography. I just use it as a medium to express myself because I feel like people don't respect that medium that much. So I wanted to change the narrative. Anybody that knows me from when I was a kid is like I'm a very alternative choosing person. Like I will always choose the alternative to try and make it mainstream. I've been like do it yourself type. And growing up, I was using my iPhone and my little Panasonic camera, my Kodak camera to try and achieve like conceptual abstract pieces. But my main studies at school was sculpture, carving, clay. I was making torsos back then. I don't even know where that's all those skills are, but anybody that knows my high school will tell you that's what I studied, general knowledge in art. So I was meant to be a painter or an abstract painter or even to do sculpture or carving or whatever. But when I went out, I've been big on critical thinking. So I've always been like, yo, I need to make sure I'm choosing a medium that people don't really, they're not really saturated in. And whatever I'm bringing is going to be unique and I'll stand out. Also, is more about married, like a marriage of like painting and photography, to create like a new world that people don't even expect. And that's why my work looks like that. It's just the bridge, the thin line between digital painting and photography, and also making sure that it's even though it's surreal, it's still real stories and it still looks real. There's not too much far left and too much far right. So being able to create that world is like it's very amusing to me, and I just want to stay as an artist because of that. Because I'm doing sculpture too. I'm doing installations now. I've been sitting on installation ideas for like years, and that was one secret part of me that I wanted to reveal to people later on in the year, and now it's happening. So maybe in the course of this year, people are going to see my first installation and going to be like, "Oh, okay, so you're good at architecture too." I'm like, "Yeah," So that's one part of me that I want people to really pay attention to.
Why such a name, Prince Gyasi?
Are you saying in the synaesthete way or
Prince, is it just your given name or is it a title?
it's a given name, and I would say it's kind of a title because my uncle, I was named after my uncle. My uncle was a development chief or king in where he comes from in a village in Accra, in Ghana, sorry. And so I think my dad probably chose that name because he was naming me after his brother.
Does it feel synesthetically?
Prince, I see it in blue and Gyasi in yellow mixed with orange. Yeah.
So what types of synesthesia do you have?
I have a day week type of synesthesia, and I also have like a grapheme synesthesia. You know, it's funny because I've tried growing up. I've tried to like change setting the way I see certain words or the days of the week or certain alphabets in my head, but it never works. It's like you're fighting with yourself. You know, if you see Tuesday as orange, you see Tuesday as orange. If you see Sunday as green, you see Sunday as green. Like you can never switch it. I had a big talk at the school world forum at the said business school in Oxford, and in 2019 or 2018, I think. And I remember after my talk, my keynote, a lady came to me and she was like, Thursday is pink. I was like, no, Thursday's gray. She was like, Thursday is pink. And we had like this argument for like 30 minutes and everybody was laughing. There was this ambassador from Colombia who was literally just filming us. Like it just, he was so entertained. Like, how are you guys having an argument based off like how you see the day of the week, you know? And it's always been interesting. I think that the point is I've been able to use that part of myself to always help me create, to choose or pick a color for what my work is going to be. So let's say if I'm doing something about hope, I'll always start with pink because that's how I see it. I see it as pink punch. So I'm always going to use things like that when I'm lost, when I'm out of ideas. That's what I do. I always go back to my mind. I'm like, okay, how do you see this word? How do you see this topic? How do you see that? How do you see this theme? And that's what I've been doing for over the years. But I also didn't want people to think I had some superpower or something like that. So I always hide behind it and not say anything. But I think after my Oxford talk, everybody just started like asking me, okay, so you're synesthete. And it's amazing, like looking at where I found when I found out, which I know is part of your question. So I'm gonna leave it there.
Let's clarify something. So you've got
Yeah,
digit to color, letters to color. You've got days of the week to color. Your favorite
yeah,
color is blue. Wednesday is blue.
yeah.
What's blue? The word itself or the meaning of the word?
I think blue is tranquility to me, and um, it always makes me feel calm. I mean, neurologically, I just love that color. But that was when I was growing up as a kid. Now I have no favorite color, but back when I was a kid, blue was my favorite color. So anytime in school it was Wednesday, I was like, yes, like it all my mood switched up the whole time, you know. And there was something happening in my mind where the colors were so Monday brown, Tuesday orange, Wednesday blue. They always came in my mind like this. So it's like Wednesday was separating Monday and Tuesday and Thursday and Friday for me. And those are the 5 days I have to go to school. So I always, it's almost like I had a fever where I was like pushing the days away from Wednesday. So Wednesday can be separate. And I think that was how my mind was working as a kid. And I remember writing on the board. I used to have a blue color chalk and I write Wednesday and I write this and I write that. And to me, I thought I was just, my mind is just wobbling, wilding out. And growing up, watching a documentary where Kanye West was saying, I mean, known as Ye now, was saying that he sees music in color. I was like, what is this? And I asked my science teacher, and he was like, "Oh, there's something called synesthesia, where you see days in the week, you see numbers, you see letters, you see people. Some people think 5 times 5 is Friday, things like that." And knowing that information made me test myself. And then I completely forgot about it because I was a kid. But then I remember testing myself and I was like, wow. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm tripping, you know. But all over the years, it's always been like that. Even when you mention the name Sarah, then I just see blue. If you mention the name Emilia and I see red, like it just is in my head like that. It just so anything blue at that time was like my favorite thing. So if your name was blue, it's like you're more closer to me because I'm always like gonna be super chill and all even if you're the most rowdiest person ever, I will think you're super calm and you're just tripping for now. And you will be my closest friend.
Sarah and Wednesday have colors, but is it the composition of the letters that have colors, or the word as a complete entity that has colors?
So that's a very good question because I never thought anybody thought about that and could even like decipher that, right? So if I say Sarah, I'll see it as blue. If I should separate the letters, I can tell you the color of each letter. So I can tell you S is blue, A is red, R is pink punch, A is red, H is pink punch. Like I can already decipher that for you. I can tell you E is brown, C is white, N is green. I can tell you every single thing. But then when the word just strikes my brain, it shows the whole thing as blue. It shows Whitney as white, but then W starts as blue. If you think about it, you know, it doesn't make any sense how it works in my brain, So it's always been like that. And I always told people when I see the word love, I see it as white. So it's very difficult for me to use red hearts sometimes because that's how I see it. And the worst thing about it is the first letters of love, which is L and O, are both white. So it makes it hard for me to use it, even though I know E at the end is brown. It still makes it hard for me to use any red composition for love. And that's how it actually makes me love people in a different way, in a very pure way, in a very sincere way as well. And I think color has a lot of effect on my life. And so you asking this question is very shocking because I didn't even see it in the questions. Like, I was like, I hope, because I used to think I was a fraud. Like, how can you separate the letters and give colors to letters, but when someone mentions the letter, that the whole word, you see a different color as one. Like, how? But now that you're telling me it's so normal, which I already know is normal because I've seen people say they feel shapes in their mouth and they feel a certain color, and I'm like, how can you feel shapes and feel color? But it's like the way the synesthesia works is I don't know. I'm just hoping that one day someone be able to prove how our brain is moving.
I read one magazine says like, you chew fabrics, you were trying to eat paint. So what is this kind of mishmash? What you did to yourself?
I completely forgot that I said that, but it was true. Like my mom was making clothes back then, so I was used to, when you chew fabric, it makes you have this weird phenomenon in your teeth. But I used to want to chew it so bad onto the point where I have that phenomenon, and I'm like, but I loved standing by painters, and painters were painting the wall. I loved it. I loved the color and how it was dripping. If they're always like, I had a very weird like behavior back then. I wanted to drink paint. My mom said I attempted so many times when I was a kid, and they had to beat me and like whoop my ass for that. And it's still kind of a weird thing that I feel. Buy a lot of color pencils because of that, because I know I cannot buy paint. And you see the color pencils in my mouth the whole time. And I'm literally just like, while maybe I'm using blue, I will have like the pink one in my mouth. Like, I just want to see the color. So that was that's part of my recollection as a kid. But I think when I actually understood that I had synesthesia is because anytime I saw Tommy Hilfiger, even though it was blue and red, I was able to decipher the words. And so the color next to the word didn't make any sense to me. I was like, why do they have blue and red next to it? They're wrong. And also when I was in grade 4, and grade 6 is when I actually tried to ask questions. But when I was in high school, I found people just see me and say, Prince, what is Tuesday? Try to put me on the test every day. And they're like, oh wow, you really have it. Like they were shocked and they were testing me every day. So it was like a fun thing. Even my manager, Tony, used to put me on the spot with friends and say, what's Angel's name? What color you see? And stuff like that, just to get them. It became like an entertainment thing that my friends were doing, and I started getting annoyed because I was like, it's a very tricky thing. I'm writing a script about color blindness. I want to make a short film about that around synesthesia. Also, I'm doing an installation about synesthesia too, and when it's ready, I will make sure Tony invites you. We are like trying to start building. We're in the process of building and developing it. It's already developed if you see it, but we need more development into it. So I think there are things that I want to like show the world about how it works in my brain. I want to bring people who also have synesthesia in music to help with that so that we can have like a very good marriage and create more awareness on that also.
You studied art and you went to a college, academy of arts, right? And you
Yeah.
did carving and you did sculpturing. And how much synesthesia was involved in sculpting and carving and woodworks?
Yeah, most of my torsos and stuff like that were made in green, and I don't know why I was making them in green because maybe the topics were all seen as green. So like when I made it, I always like painted them after in green. With carving, I remember we did like a little piece of like box, and I had three colors on top of it, and I remember switching up the words. So I remember writing blue on red, writing yellow on blue, and then writing blue on yellow. Like I was doing like this thing where to kind of like create like a fun thing because I didn't know how to use my synesthesia on there, but my synesthesia came to play more when I did graphic design because back then graphic design you will have to paint on a canvas as a graphic design. You would never use a computer to do it because they wanted to teach us the hard way. So I remember my final year exam, I was told to do a calendar. And so I made a calendar of a boy fishing with their father. And I remember the boy was wearing a pink shirt, yellow shorts. The father was wearing yellow shirt, pink shorts. And then I remember the fish. I remember the water was yellow, and my teacher, the invigilator who was going around while we were doing the final year project was like, "Oh wow, everybody, this Prince is doing an amazing work." And then he asked me, "How did you come up with the composition of the colors?" And I was like, "Because I saw that the story that I picked was from my mom's community um when she was a kid where she grew up and the hardship over there and the fact that there was a lack of education in that place. So I wanted to bring hope into that place. So I wanted pink to dominate throughout the work, you know, and I wanted to bring value to fishing also. So I had to put yellow in there. The magical thing is sometimes the words, there are most of the times that the words don't match. The color of the word doesn't match with the composition of the colors I've chosen. So I had to compromise, but I had to fight with myself. And there are times that when they work, the work is magically good, like so good, you know, that I can explain why I put those two colors together or that those three colors together. I can't explain, and no, I will never be able to explain. It's just the way I see the words and how we work together.
When doing design, and then you went to taking up photography. And
Yeah.
in photography, how much control do you have enough control over your colors when you see the image in the viewfinder?
Yeah, I do because I do set design also. So I set design everything. I design the set. So if you saw my Pirelli calendar, you can see the different colors based off how I see the person. and what theme I give to the person, how I feel when I see what work they have done and stuff like that. So that's how much control I have. I try to make sure 90% of the work, the color is done on the set, and then the rest could be digital painting. The 10% could be digital painting of me trying to make this part look good, more good, or this part come out right. So that's how much control I have.
To me, if you look at your earlier works, these are kind of blocks of solid color, and the image is engulfed in two contrasting or four contrasting colors, but they are all
Yeah,
solid. In the Pirelli
yeah.
calendar, you seem to have deviated from your non-object approach, and it's stuffed with objects, clocks, notepads, or whatever you decided to include. So why
Yeah.
so? And how did you use synesthesia in such a unusually cluttered compositions for yourself?
Okay. So when I'm doing my personal work, I will always have my full skills to it. But when you're doing a commercial work, you always have to appeal to, the scope they're giving to you, but still try to infuse or incorporate some of your skills in there. So I would say I didn't deviate. I tried to create something new because I always try to create something new to make people see how much I've developed because people don't really pay attention to my set designs. Like the piece that you have back there with the guy holding the gallons, that's a set that I built myself, but people don't really think about it. So I wanted to emphasize more on the sets than to emphasize on the block colors. And if you look at my new works, like the girls playing the violin on the tennis court, you see only two colors, white and pink. You understand? So I'm still in that phase of doing stuff like that. It's just that sometimes I need to be very dynamic and also to make sure I don't always stick to one thing that because I see hibiscus as that, I will also have to make sure that the piece looks like that. Like I don't always want to stick to one side because sometimes when I use my synesthesia, it doesn't work with the harmony of the colors, you know. Because either ways, Naomi had a red composition and gold, right? But I see Naomi's name as green and Campbell as white. And I've told her before. But how am I going to marriage that? That wouldn't work. So visually, it won't be pleasing. So I had to like look at her and be like, okay, Naomi has some sense of determination. So we had to use a black outfit because, D is always black to me. All right. What does she feel also? So how do I see that word? Red, right? And who is her as a woman? She's a golden woman. She's a woman of timelessness. She's a woman that has she doesn't care about how many days of the week that's in the week, how many days that is in the week or how many months is in the year. She would do things to her own timing and she always makes sure she strikes well. So gold was the color to choose. So I still use the synesthesia in a different way to try to apply to the way I work. But I also wanted to create some type of dynamic because sometimes the colors don't match, you don't match at all. Yeah, because even Tian's name, you're seeing orange, you're seeing gray, blue, S is blue, you're seeing altar as white, and then you're seeing blue again. It doesn't it doesn't work. If I had to do something according to my synesthesia of how I see it, it doesn't really work. And if I had to separate the letters, we're gonna have like a whole lot of like letters. We're gonna have orange, brown, red, green, gray, blue, white, orange, brown, pink punch, blue, white, orange. Just like it's not never gonna work. So I just had to be dynamic and more creative on that side. And that's what makes me an artist, being able to like not, compromise too much, but still put it in play.
Well, about compromises, uh, I thought this. Well, first, the your version of the Pirelli calendar is adorable. Another one is this. You are a calendar synesthete. I mean, you've got weeks of the days of the week, and the calendar is all about days of the week. Did it come to your mind to suggest
Mm-hmm.
coloring the, what would they say, or what did they say?
They didn't allow that because they didn't allow that because also it wasn't matching with some of the colors of the page. You know, like Naomi's page was red, and it just didn't work throughout. I tried my best. I tried. I tried. If you look at the calendar well, the cover, you will see I did something interesting. The Pirelli, I changed it in the way I see it, the synaesthesia, exactly. So for that one, it's like, yeah,
Did you mention your synesthesia in the presence of these high-profile people? So Naomi Campbell knows that you are synesthete. Someone else
yeah.
does. How did they react?
Naomi is always blown away. She's known that since I was 24. So at first she was like, "What are you telling me? What are you telling me?" She was like a bit like that. I'm sorry for cursing, but that's exactly what she said. She's like, "What telling me?" I was like, "Yeah," and I was telling her that. But also, I know the right time to do that because I don't want it to sound like, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" So I knew what when to do that and what right time to do that. So it's always been like a shocking moment for people. And another interesting thing is when I got off the stage and I had to have a conversation, a confrontation from a woman who she I don't know what school she's from, but she said she's a professor, and for her to tell me that she feels that pink is Thursday, and then I'm saying that Thursday is gray, and we had to argue about that, made me understand this was real. So other people feel it too. It's not like someone made up something, it's something that's actually happening in our brains. And that was very interesting. That was a very good assurance to me that I'm not tripping, I'm not going crazy, I'm not stupid, and that's really good, really, really good.
When you pick up colors and piece them together, how much do you do it for yourself or for others? And what makes your vision interesting to people?
First of all, I tackle color therapy, so I make sure that if I'm using harsh colors, I always dilute it with blue so it can work with the brain. So it's not too harsh in your face. So if you look at most of my work, I try to push blue into there because I know to me, blue is calmness. So I try to push it there to help the consumer also. So it's a thing like between I choose myself first, and then I choose the consumer after. Because at the end of the day, I'm not putting out the work for myself. I'm putting out for the consumer. But because of hard work and how meticulous I always want to be, I will make sure it works for both me and the consumer, even if it's my own personal colors and I didn't choose the because the consumer wouldn't. I don't know what the favorite colors of the consumer is. So I'm using what I see genuinely so that I can be able to back it up if I'm asked any questions. But sometimes where we encounter a problem like Naomi's part, I use the character of the person and what colors I see with the character of that person. Um, so that's how I think I approach it most of the times. Yeah.
You mentioned a therapeutic impact that you try to design your uh, artworks with. So you
Yeah.
say that photos are inspired and created by your synesthesia, which is very personal. It's yours. And still
Yeah.
you try to design your works based on your synesthesia to have a healing effect on your audience or consumer. So how do you
Yeah.
explain? How do you bridge these two notions?
Um, I think it's important for people to. So there's this thing where I had this idea of creating a hospital where everywhere is like based off what you're going through. We choose the color that you're going to be seeing, the art you're going to be seeing in that room. The whether it's an ER room or wherever. it's always important to have color that doesn't, suffocate the patient, depending on what they're going through. If you want to psych a patient to, or a person to push more, apply more pressure to something that they're supposed to do, yes, of course, you're gonna have these striking, intense colors around them, which is the reds. They all like have intense color around them. So sometimes when I work, I try to do that and push all these soft colors in there because I want people to see that what they're seeing is like a sugar rush in their brain. And I've had that feedback from people when they're like, "Wow, what your work does to me when I wake up." I had this collector of mine who had a baby, a newly born baby, and she was like, "I put this work. I have this piece where it's like a guy's pulling two yellow boats from the water, and he's wearing a blue pants." And she's like, "What this work does to me whenever I see it in my kitchen in the morning is it's just like crack. It's like, sorry for using that word, but it's like she thinks it's like a sugar rush that rushes their brain." So it helps people if they're in a bad mood when they see those pieces. It's like, oh my God, they forget their problems for a second. But that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to psych your brain to understand that you have this problem, which is serious for sure, but there are ways around it to solve it. I want to collaborate with hospitals, um, clinics, hotels, to try to like create that bridge and to create that marriage between color therapy and an actual art piece.
You mentioned several names in different interviews. You mentioned several names. And one of them is James Tuttle. Another one is Yves Klein. Well, which is obvious to me. Well, it's color. And which pieces do you enjoy by these artists? Which pieces are most memorable to you and why?
There was this piece of Yeast Klein, the blue one, and I remember being inspired by it when I was young. So I had a piece called the power of choice and the choice of power, of a kid writing a lifeline, like the readings of your heart. Um, it was based off of Yeast Klein's work. James Turrell, I love his use of architecture, shapes, color light, and you're gonna see to my new installation how I'm able to use architecture to evoke emotions. Um, there's so many artists that I love in music, like Kendrick Lamar. I think he's such a good person by painting words and colors. Um, because when he raps, I see the stories. It's like I see everything like happening in real life, and also seeing the words in color at the same time. So it's very difficult to listen to him in the sense that I'm overworking my brain, not in the sense that it's difficult to understand his words. I understand the wordplay, I understand the metaphor, everything, but it's just that when I'm listening to him, I'm seeing it in real life motion, like he's moving. There are people moving in his works, in his music, but at the same time, seeing the words that he's saying in color at the same time. So it's like an overlap of my visual memory and then my synaesthete brain. So it's a very interesting exercise every time I do that. Um, it's amazing the kind of people that inspire me. It's a bunch of people that who are artists that I respect so much. There are certain actors and certain models who or supermodels that inspire me, like Naomi Campbell, um, artists like Idris Elba. Um, it's just super amazing how it works in my brain, how I pick each element of these influences. My favorite photographer is Joshua Kisi, who I kind of like. He saw me coming up. Um, I think Rankin also is a very good photographer that I really like. I like David LaChapelle also. I like him. Um, I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. uh, let me see. As an artist, I love Amwako Boafo. He's a very good artist. I like Ishak very much. I like there's a um Yeah, it's a lot of people that means I love. I'm a very authentic person, so it becomes hard for me to pick from anybody. I pick here and there from Yves Klein and James Turrell, and then maybe Kendrick Lamar I pick from him, but um, and I don't always pick from everybody. I just come up with I try to be original as possible. But I'll say that they push me to think of things that are outside of the box a lot. So, yeah.
It's very easy to notice that you do not shoot in London. I mean, all your photos, I mean, real life photos, come from Accra, from Ghana.
Yeah.
And why? What do you think is the best location for you as a synesthete photographer?
First of all, I can shoot everywhere, but Ghana is where I grew up, so I like to, I don't like compromising. So I like to, if I'm doing my personal work, I like to do it in Ghana because those are where all the stories are. So I just want to remember where I was, the things I've done, the experiences I've had, and also I can only paint my country very well, and not other person's country. I can only work in another person's country if it has to do with another work that might not be personal, or if it makes so much sense. The environment makes so much sense to the piece that I'm creating. So I can do anything anywhere. I've worked everywhere in my life, so it's like it's not that difficult. But I love to work in Ghana a lot because of that, because of how I was brought up and where I was brought up. And I can already, or I'm the best person to talk about my people, and I'm the only good person to probably, or the right person to tell my own narratives. I don't have to wait for someone to go to my country to tell the narratives for me because they're probably going to reshape it in a way that we don't deem as respectful. So that's why I'm doing it now, so nobody treats my culture or our narratives in a different way. You know, yeah.
Do you think that it will be difficult to find other synesthetes on the African continent?
I think it's not that difficult. I think people just don't know. Just as when I was growing up as a kid, I didn't know. And if my primary teacher didn't tell me, I would have thought it's my brain just tripping. I think if there's more awareness, people will actually find out. But also, you don't want to influence people to force themselves to say that they have synesthesia, which normally happens sometimes. It then deems to become like a trend to people, which is funny. But I think we'll find more people who have synesthesia because if I was in Ghana and and I have it, I think there are a lot of people like me who have it who probably don't know it's called synesthesia, but they do have it. I think there was a tweet of someone saying that five times five is Friday, and the person was African. I remember very well. And it struck like a whole topic of like, what is this? What is that? Because she was like, am I tripping? Or five times five is Friday? And so I think there are a lot of people there. We just need to create awareness of that, or we need to find them for them to understand what they have.
People with synesthesia, people with synesthesia sometimes choose friends on the color of their names.
Yeah.
And they make very serious life choices based on their synesthesia. How does synesthesia influence your life choices?
My girlfriend's name starts with a blue and ends with orange. My name starts with a blue and ends with orange. My name is Prince Gyasi. Her artist name is just Blue Blue. So it's also part of it. It's a factor of it. It's a factor. It's a factor. My best friend's name, both names are yellow. So it's a big factor. No, sorry, orange and yellow. So that's a really big factor. Both names are yellow. So, you know, it's because that's how I see it. But if I should differentiate the letters, it's going to be different. So I think I've made life choices based on colors too. Because anytime I mention her name, I feel this type of, calmness around me. So that's really true. That's why I was laughing when you said that because it's really, really true. I think even based off the things I buy, um, you know, even my if you can see my sketchbook here is pink, is magenta. Um, it's just very funny. My wallet, if it didn't have this blue thing, I would never buy it. It's I make life choices based on colors a lot. And that's why the Pirelli calendar itself is pink, and then but when you open it, it's purple. Hopefully, people will actually see, okay, this is like a very color oriented um, piece, not just in my artworks, but in my designs too. People are gonna see more of the color. I'm not that gimmicky for just choosing color. It's just part of my life. So sometimes when I see people who have no color in their life, but they just choosing color based off like, oh, this is like becoming a trend. I'm just annoyed. Like, I just feel like they're just calming everybody because they don't really understand what color actually is. When I showed the watch design, maybe we can cut that out because I wanted to just show you. And the watch is not out yet, so I don't want them to see the sketch. That's the only part I wanted to
Excellent.
come out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will cut it out.
All these important people from MasterCard, Visa, from the US government, wherever, so astonished and looking at me like this. I was like, okay, so this is really shocking to people, right? Okay, I'm gonna bank on that.